Welcome friends to another r/am I the jerk here video. Today we've got a lot of hard-hitting questions to answer, but first, a story from anonymous user 13Q. Am I the jerk for calling the police on my husband after I found out that he's hiding my son's motorcycle? I got my son a 7,000 motorcycle for his 18th birthday this past June. My son is obsessed with automobiles and loves motorcycles. In his room, he has plenty of models and posters of motorcycles of all types. His bio dad passed away when he was just 12. Now I'm married to my current husband, and he has kids of his own. My husband's always been against my son's interest in motorcycles. He thinks I'm encouraging him to be reckless, distracting him from school and, by extension, his future, and spoiling him and blowing away money by spending $7,000 on a motorcycle. This has caused some tension between him and my son, so I told him to stop complaining about it. Around 2 weeks ago, my son's motorcycle went missing. We opened a police report, but nothing came out of it. It just disappeared. My husband had a smirk on his face the entire time, just walking around saying, "I told you so, you just wasted your money." This was unbearable to hear, to be quite honest. My mother-in-law visited a few days ago. She was talking about the other house my husband owns, and mentioned seeing a motorcycle, one that's similar to the one that we lost in my husband's garage while she was cleaning it. She goes to clean that house weekly, even though it's empty. My husband plans on giving it to his kids as inheritance. I was puzzled. I asked if she was certain, but she showed me a photo she took of it, which confirmed it was indeed my son's motorcycle. I immediately rushed to call and confront my husband about it. He admitted that he took it and hid the motorcycle in his garage as a last resort after me and his stepson kept brushing him and his thoughts off about the $7,000 being spent on something unnecessary and that could cause issues. I blew up at him, demanding he return it. He refused and told me that he had been considering selling it and giving the money back to me so I could use it wisely this time. I told him I was serious and that I'd call the police. He literally said, "This is a family matter and cops can't do crap about it." I had enough. I called the cops as soon as I ended the call with him. The motorcycle was found and returned, but my husband had to be taken in since there was an open file about the motorcycle going missing. He was let go eventually, but he was livid with me. He came home yelling about how awful what I did was and how crazy my behavior was. I refused to engage in the argument, but he told his entire family about it. And they judged me for calling the police on my own husband, even though I'd already asked him to return it. He said he was just looking out for my son, and that one day we'll realize that he was right, but only when it's too late. My son isn't speaking to me or my husband. I feel horrible about the situation, and I'm starting to think I handled this the wrong way. Personally, I feel like OP is not the jerk, and I feel like in no way should they be bullied into accepting that what the husband did here was right. Let alone the fact that you went and bought this yourself and they were considering trying to sell something that I don't know if they have the right to even sell. Is their name on the title? Were they gonna just try to sell it without a title? It sounds like to me that this guy has some serious control issues. If you were in a relationship like this, would divorce be weighing heavy on your mind? Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Our next story is from Sister Feud 1927. Am I the jerk for telling my sister I hope she never has kids? I'm 22-year-old female. I have 3-year-old twin boys, and I had a baby girl not even 2 days ago. My sister Jody is 34 and has been suffering with infertility for the past 10 years, as well as repeated miscarriages. I used to feel really bad for her and also a bit guilty as I got pregnant twice while being on contraception. It caused some tension between us when I was pregnant with my twins because she was jealous, and I was already feeling intense guilt. This time around, she wasn't as jealous, but I still felt it was unfair. As my husband and I have decided we're done having kids, I offer to be a surrogate for my sister as soon as I'm cleared after this baby, and she seemed like she was absolutely over the moon with that. In turn, she offered to watch the twins while I was in labor with my new baby, which was a relief on my part. I went into labor on Thursday morning, and Jody came over to watch the kids while my husband and I went to the hospital. She seemed like she was in a great mood and promptly rushed us out the door. Everything seemed fine until we got home this morning to find thousands worth of destruction to pretty much every baby item we've purchased. Even the crib mattress was torn open. Everything was ruined. Jody tried to pin it on the twins, but they're 3. And this level of destruction had to have been done by an adult. My twins can't even reach some of the stuff that was destroyed, and they certainly do not know how to open diaper packages and tear them apart. I know kids, especially toddlers, can do a lot of damage in a short time, but I also know my children aren't capable of doing what happened. I told my sister to get the freak out of my home and stay away from me and my family. I got really angry and I said a lot of stuff I shouldn't have, but one of them was, I hope you never have a child. And if you do, then I'll tell it exactly what you've done to mine. I told her we can't afford to fix the damage she's caused, but since she still denies it, she won't cough up. I told her because of her, the baby doesn't even have a safe space to sleep. My parents caught a wind of what I said, and even after I explained the situation, they still think I'm being a jerk for saying something so vile to my sister after all she's done for us. Obviously, my judgment is clouded, so am I a jerk? Anybody that's capable of lashing out like that emotionally because of unfounded emotions that are personally just their problem, that being sheer jealousy? I honestly agree with OP. They probably should not be having kids. I wouldn't exactly put somebody who went and did all this to their own sister very high on the ranking of seems like they'd be a good parent. What do you guys think? Is this just too far? Did OP cross a line here? Personally, I don't think so, but I'd like to know what you guys think. Our next story is from Left Kaleidoscope 109. Am I the jerk for smoking in my backyard? I, female 27, live in a house with my husband. I'm a heavy smoker, but I don't smoke in the house because my husband doesn't like the smell, and I don't want him breathing secondhand smoke. He's a non-smoker. I usually smoke cigs in our backyard. One of our neighbors slid a passive-aggressive note through our letterbox last week, saying something along the lines of, "My children just wanted to play in our backyard. Thanks for exposing them to cancer. I hope you're happy." I had no idea which neighbor this was. None of our neighbors had talked to us about this. I decided to ignore the note and continue to smoke in my backyard. Then 4 days ago, one of our neighbors knocked on our door and complained and said I shouldn't smoke in my backyard because their kids play in their backyard. I think my neighbor's being unreasonable. Our backyards are pretty large, and I smoke right in the center of my backyard so the smoke has more space to disperse. I think my neighbor's only complaining because they can see me smoking over our fence. Am I the jerk? I feel like maybe they would have a case if this was like apartment living and you're smoking literally right below or on top of them, or like a motel thing where you step out the door and you're literally just right there next to every single neighbor. But gosh darn it, I think if you have a large backyard, you have a right to be able to smoke in your own backyard. Unless where you live has a law or a statute that says you can't, well then honestly I think they need to kick rocks. I'm not gonna lie, I can sometimes smell when my neighbor smokes. Do I particularly enjoy smelling it? No, but do I make an issue about it? Why would I? I mean, to be fair though, the healthy option would be to quit. By the way, if you guys are enjoying these stories, make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons down below so you never miss any of my daily videos. That said, our next story is from Careless Elk 7540. Am I the jerk for taking pics of my son's clothes he wears to his dad's house? First, I'm not some super picky, spiteful ex who tries to make my ex's life difficult. We have a son, Mark, who's 9. He wears a size 10 or 12 in clothes and size 5 in shoes. Mark never comes back in clothes or shoes that size. Last several weekends, for example, Mark came back in clothes that were a size 6 or 7, where the shirt fit like a crop top and he couldn't even button his pants, and they were way too short, and size 3 shoes that he had to scrunch his toes to even get on. I know Mark's uncomfortable and his feet hurt because he tells me. I've asked my ex Joe about Mark's clothes and he always has some reason. Mark dressed himself. Mark insisted on wearing that. They're behind on laundry. He was in a rush and they didn't have time to get ready until the last minute. If Mark came home to me in clothes that actually fit, I wouldn't care. But they don't fit. Mark can't wear that stuff to school. It's in really shabby condition and clothes are not free. I don't get child support from Joe because neither of us can currently afford to go back to court, And Joe has made it clear without a child support order, I'll never get a single penny from him. And if I ever do ask for support, he would go as far as quitting his job to have no income so he doesn't have to pay. Unfortunately, our custody agreement does not affect child support, and that's a whole separate issue. I cannot legally keep Mark away from Joe. Anyways, I've started taking pics of what Mark wears to his dad's and texting the pic to Joe with a reminder to please remember that I need that back, as Mark is starting to run low on clothes and shoes that actually fit him correctly and are nice enough for school. Joe never responds to the texts, but has told me in person at exchanges I'm a selfish and petty witch for not wanting Mark to have clothes and shoes at his house too. I've asked Joe to please buy clothes that fit Mark to keep at his place, but he's refused, saying it's not his responsibility or problem. Gosh, do I wish OP had any kind of support where they could go back to court and challenge this guy for how awful they're being. It is such a load of it for him to go and say, it's not my responsibility to buy clothes for my son. Imagine how Mark would feel if Mark ever heard that. OP is not the jerk because not only are they looking out for Mark, they're looking out for their own financial security against a bad father. Our next story is from Jasmine0917. Am I the jerk for making my stepdaughter feel bad for eating all my snacks and drinks? My stepdaughter's 10. I'm 30-year-old female and I have diabetes, as well as other food allergies that prevent me from eating a very large variety of foods that are purchased for consumption in this household. The foods, snacks, drinks that I can eat usually tend to be on the more expensive side, and I have to spend way too much time shopping around for bargains so I can actually eat. My stepdaughter is fully aware that these are the only things I can eat, and we've had no problems up until roughly 6 months ago. I had been in her life for 8 years, so yes, this is a new behavior. So my favorite food and drink is burritos and Diet Sprite. I can't have either of them due to my allergies, and it took me forever to find a brand that I could actually have. But due to the fact that both of these products are way too expensive, $19 for an 8-pack burrito and $12 for a 6-pack of the Sprite knockoff, I don't get them often at all. Maybe once every 3 months or so. I caught my stepdaughter eating and drinking both multiple times and had to sit her down and tell her that I didn't want her eating those, as they were expensive and for me specifically, and offered to buy her regular brands of the same items. She said yes, so I went out and bought them for her, just to find that she was still eating mine and not touching hers. I asked her why several times and she shrugged her shoulders and walks off saying, I don't see why it's a big deal, it's just food, and rolls her eyes. So I told my husband to do something about it because he knows my dietary restrictions very well and knows how important not only that is, but also how much I love those specific items and can't have them often. He speaks to her. Everything after that seemed fine. However, I just bought the burritos and knockoff organic Sprite again yesterday. I went to go get myself some around 10 p.m. when my stepdaughter was supposed to be in bed. The entire liter was gone. I couldn't find it anywhere. So I go in my stepdaughter's room and she's sitting not only with the Sprite in her lap, but 2 burritos as well. This is when I noticed everything else. My green tea sitting on the floor, gone. My meal containers that I'd packed for work under her bed and on her dresser. I thought I was going freaking mental because I couldn't find them anywhere. And turns out she's been eating them. I've gone many days at work without food because of this. So I told her I had never been so absolutely disappointed and repulsed that someone could lack that much respect and empathy for another individual and walked out. I woke my husband. He went down and saw everything but came up and started screaming at me because apparently I made his kid cry and now he's worried about her developing anxiety about eating. Am I the jerk? Now, what I'm gonna say is very controversial. First of all, I think OP's not the jerk. But maybe it would be a good idea for her to develop anxiety when it comes to taking other people's things. God forbid somebody gets upset when somebody steals not just one thing, but everything they've tried to prepare for themselves, buy for themselves, like your favorite pack of Doritos. This is food that you specifically choose for yourself because that's all you can eat. Maybe it's for the best that they get apprehensive about touching somebody else's stuff, because it sure didn't come to them naturally and it doesn't sound like the dad's going to reinforce anything. Actually, in retrospect, I just remembered the kid is 10 years old. For some reason, I assumed they were a little bit older than that. I still think OP's not the jerk here, but I feel like there's just a lot more discussions and maybe even like family therapy to be had. It'll also be for the best if they can work to curb the daughter's habit of eating and drinking all this food and drink when everybody's asleep secretly. This next story is from JamHappy165. Am I the jerk for not going outside to see my husband's family when they show up unannounced? I'm 26-year-old female, my husband, 26, and I have been married for almost 2 years. His family are a very close-knit group, and although they're very kind and giving, it can also be overbearing in my opinion. I grew up in a very different family. My family isn't near as close or overbearing. Well, his family likes to show up to our house unannounced. This usually happens about once a month, and it's usually on a Sunday. I personally find this very rude, to show up at someone's house whenever you want and not say anything to them. On Sundays, I don't usually get ready. The house is a wreck. I don't have a bra or makeup on. I don't fix my hair because it's my day to relax. So when they just show up, I have to fly through my butt to get dressed, put a bra on, run a brush through my hair. It's his dad, mom, and sister. And I don't want to look like crap in front of them. I'm also not comfortable with them. Maybe it's because I grew up differently. Recently, I stopped doing that. I just don't go outside to say hi anymore because I simply don't want to. I don't want to fly through my butt. I don't want to see them. I didn't know or ask them to come over. So I don't want to go out of my way to say hi for 20 seconds. This may make me a jerk, but I feel like it isn't that hard to tell me you're coming over. Just give us a heads up so I can get ready and put a bra on. The most recent time, they had set up a little gift on our front porch. I had stayed inside because, well, they showed up unannounced and I was taking a nap. My husband went outside to thank them, say hello, etc. His mom asked where I was, and when he told her I was napping and not dressed, she told him to tell me to get dressed and come outside because this gift was for me. So I did. I threw a bra on, got dressed, went outside, thanked them profusely, but I could tell his mom was upset with me. My husband thinks I'm being rude, but I think it's his family that's rude. It's rude to show up unannounced to someone's home, whether you have a gift for them or not. All I'm asking for is a heads up that they're coming. I'm not ungrateful for the random gifts. I think they're nice and his family's very sweet. However, I didn't ask for any of that. I like my space. My husband says he doesn't know how to tell them that without sounding ungrateful. But I feel like they're crossing a boundary here. Am I the jerk? I think OP's not the jerk here because, honestly, I fall right on the same spectrum as them. I am a very comfortable homebody. People popping up anywhere unannounced is extremely exhausting for somebody like me. I don't want to have to feel like I'm forced to entertain or share my space when I never had a say in the matter to begin with or had a heads up. Honestly, I think it's awesome that their family's so connected, but you have to respect boundaries, and we're family isn't a good enough excuse in my opinion. Our next story is from Addict Ed. Am I the jerk for telling a lady her baby is a waste of space? I know the title sounds bad, but hear me out. I, female 19, have a baby sister, 11 months, who I babysit quite often. Mostly because my mom had a knee surgery after an accident quite recently, so she can't walk very well yet. The result of many years of struggling with joint problems. She's got a fancy titanium knee now. This took place a couple days ago when my sister started coughing and having a runny nose. Then, overnight, came a slight fever. I know now that this is just a common cold, but obviously I was worried and told my mom I would gladly take her to a doctor. I have a driver's license, but I'm very scared of driving. I got into an accident the first time driving alone, and this kind of traumatized me. I live in a big city in Europe where public transportation is great, so it's no big deal to not use a car. Half of the way to the doctors is done via tram, for the rest of the way I have to use a bus. Usually these buses are sufficiently big but with limited space for strollers and wheelchairs. That day the bus was unusually cramped, full of people standing as well as a woman in a wheelchair, 2 old ladies with walkers and 2 strollers. So I could barely fit with my baby sister in her stroller. I asked one of the women with a stroller if she could move a bit and make space. As a response, she just rolled her eyes. I asked her again, and she just told me to wait for the next bus, which takes about 15 minutes, as her baby needs the space. Well, I look at the baby and it's a doll? A very realistic looking one, but still a doll. I got very angry at that point and told her that my baby is sick and needs to go to the doctor, and she just ignored me. So I kind of lashed out and told her that her fake baby is a waste of space that other people with real babies or wheelchairs could need. The lady got really offended, insulted me under her breath, and finally moved. Quite a few people looked at me angrily. I know some people need these dolls, for example, to deal with grief, but I don't understand why you can't move over if someone asks you, or why you need to put it in a stroller in the first place. It's not even real after all, and the space on public transport's limited. She could have been taking the space from a disabled person when she has the option not to. Still, since a lot of people judged me, I'm wondering if I was in the wrong. Am I the jerk? I think this is a very bizarre situation, and I think OP's not the jerk. Honestly, I'm gonna go out on a limb here and assume that this lady is pushing this doll around in a stroller to take advantage of the rules where you get more advantageous seating in a lot of public transport options, maybe even parking spaces if you're driving around because you have a stroller and a baby. I mean, just why else would she be doing that? Our next story is from Duyak8527. Am I the jerk for walking my sister down the aisle when our mother's husband believed he would be the one to do it? My sister got married on Saturday. She asked me several months ago to walk her down the aisle and to have a dance to honor our dad. I said of course. Our dad died when I was 11 and she was 7, and we both have memories of him, and she wanted to honor him and feel connected to him on the day, and she saw me as the best person for the job. So I walked her to her husband and danced to the song our dad used to sing to us. Our mother was remarried before our dad was a year gone. Her husband has no children and was unable to have kids of his own, so he made a big attempt to take over our dad's place and be regarded as dad, which he wasn't. Despite knowing this and never being asked, he assumed that he would be fulfilling father of the bride duties at my sister's wedding. And on the day he learned it was me she asked, he was visibly upset. I had an idea that he was expecting it but said nothing, neither did she. At the reception, he confronted me and asked why I would do it when he's right there. And how was I more deserving than him, her father figure? I told him it was my sister's choice and she wanted me so we could honor our dad. He told me he deserved better than to be completely ignored in the wedding and treated like he wasn't a parent and not a part of our family for the last 15 years. I shrugged, which pissed him off even more. He and my mom are both furious at me for saying yes when I knew he wanted to do it. Am I the jerk? We do get a lot of wedding-related stories here, and a common sentiment for me is I subscribe to the belief that when you have a wedding, as long as it's legal, you should be able to celebrate it however you want. And in this situation where the bride wanted to honor her biological father, I don't see how she or her brother for doing father of the bride duties could be the jerk. I think we can all agree here the stepdad is just all up in their feelings. Our next story is from SeriousBanana7181. Am I the jerk for spending more on my wedding than my best friend's husband makes in a year? For context, I, 24-year-old female, and my best friend, 25-year-old female, have been best friends since we were 2. Now, after high school, I decided that I wanted to go and start my own business. So I got a degree in business management while having a small business on the side. After I finished my degree, my business, I put all of my time, effort, and savings into growing it, which ended up being a very financially rewarding decision for me as I now own a very successful business. I met my fiance, 32-year-old male, 4 years ago, and we got engaged last year, but decided to have a long engagement because I wanted to lose some weight, which he said I didn't need to, but was completely supportive of. My fiance is an orthopedic surgeon, so we're more than well off, especially as we have no plans to have children. Now, after high school, my best friend was doing a degree in chemistry but dropped out after 2 years when she became pregnant. I was there helping her out emotionally and financially throughout the whole of her pregnancy, as she decided she didn't want to work through her pregnancy and wanted to become a stay-at-home mom, which I totally supported. However, her husband works a 9-to-5 job in an office, which pays enough for them to get by, but not enough for them to live in luxury. Because of this, me and my fiance try and help them out the best we can, and always let them borrow money when they need it. We help them with the down payment on their house. However, now that we've started planning our wedding properly, we've got a beautiful venue, an open bar, live music, a 3-course meal, I've got the perfect dress, we're paying for all the bridesmaid dresses and groomsmen suits, and we've got beautiful little gift hampers for each of the guests to take home. And overall, we went all out because we can only have this day once. Now, when I was talking to my best friend about this, who's also my maid of honor, she brought up possibly having the same venue for her wedding, which I thought was lovely, but I didn't know if they would be able to afford it. I didn't see that though, so it was extra awkward when she asked about the price. So I told her it's around $32,000, and she went ballistic, asking how much my whole wedding costs. I really didn't want to tell her, but she ended up getting it out of me and she went crazy. My whole wedding amounted up to about $72,000, which then sent her on a tangent of saying we're so irresponsible spending that much money on one day, that her husband only earns $60,000 a year to support the 3 of them, and if she knew we had that much money to just throw around, she would have asked us for more when they were struggling financially earlier on this year. She finished with saying that I'm a horrible friend for not helping her out more, and that she was outraged that we thought it was okay to spend more money on one day than her family gets to live off in a year. I don't think I'm the jerk, but she's been sending me messages about how inconsiderate I am, so maybe I did go overboard and spend too much. So am I the jerk? As far as how much you want to spend on your wedding, personally I feel like to each their own. You want to go big, go big, you got the money for it, go as big as you want. I think considering how much they've already helped their friends, it sounds like they've done quite a bit. I mean, helping with a down payment on their house is a lot. I think it's pretty disappointing to see that their friend, upon finding out how rich their friend is, starts calling them horrible and somehow insinuating that they're holding the money over their heads. Almost like as if the friends were entitled to any of it to begin with. It's just weird. And our final story of the day is from Immediate Rhubarb 39. Am I the jerk for making my wife look crazy at our housewarming? I'm male 36. My wife, female 27, and I just purchased our first home. We've always rented before. I'm what my father called a shade tree mechanic. I work on my car and other people's cars just in my shop when I have time. It's a side hustle. I'm a teacher in real life, so is she. I, in the past, have gotten grease and dirt on our hand towels and she's told me off. I don't do it anymore, not for a long time anyway. Our new home has 2.5 bathrooms, including one that we have for guests. She decorated it with all that stuff to make it look nice. Honestly, it's nicer than how she decorated our in-suite in our room. She spent all week getting the house ready for our friends and family. She's very happy to show off our new home, as am I. I cleaned up the backyard and the shop so I could show my friends and family where I goof off. One of the things she did was to leave a note pinned to the hand towels in the guest bathroom. It said, "If you touch these, I will end you." And she had drawn a little skull and crossbones. When it was time for everyone to come, she told me to check everything and make sure it looked nice. I suppose one of the things I should have done was to remove the note. I did not. We had an excellent party and everyone left with a full belly and a smile. The day after the party, we were cleaning up and I hear her call me by my name. She never calls me by my name. I hadn't done anything bad recently, so I wasn't sure why I was in trouble. I had not touched the hand towels, and neither had anyone else. They were immaculate. She says I did it on purpose to make her look bad. I totally just missed the note. She called her mom and I heard her saying it was my fault people think she doesn't want them using her towels. It's such a minor thing, but she's still mad at me. Am I the jerk? I think OP's not the jerk, and honestly, even if somebody did mention it, I think the explanation of the overall story is actually cute and funny enough to honestly turn the whole thing into a laugh. It doesn't have to be this weird dramatic, oh, now they're gonna think so bad of me. If the wife told them, oh, did you see that note? I'm sorry, I left that for my husband. He works on cars. He loves to mess up the hand towels, so I wrote him a little note, forgot to take it off. That'd be a cute story. I think OP's not the jerk. I think the wife is just getting a little too doom and gloom about it and a little too worked up over it. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another Am I the Jerk Here story that was absolutely crazy, click on that left video. Or if you missed my latest video, check out the one on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.